Hello, just a quick video to help out with some of the parts of number 2 of text 6. So I'm going to do two parts here. I'm going to show you how to use the CDF tab to find the probability that x is less than or equal to 28, and I'm going to use the inverse CDF to show you how to find the x value with the area of 0.384 to its right. And I'm also going to show you how you can mark those graphs while you're still on the computer instead of having to wait until after you print them out. So these tend to be a couple of the tough spots for people on the text, so hopefully this will help you out a bit. I don't want to give you the exact answers to those, so you'll see that I'm going to use a different mean and standard deviation for my example, and I'm going to change the numbers here and here when I do them, but you will still see how they're done. So just showing you that for my example, I'm going to use a normal distribution with a mean of 20 and a standard deviation of 5, and instead of finding the probability that x is less than or equal to 28, I'm going to do the probability that x is less than 17, but the ideas will be the same. So the first thing to do would be to open up the normal distributions app if you don't already have that out. Make sure you put your name in there so the date and time are locked in. And then you want to enter the mean and standard deviation. So I said I was going to use a mean of 20 and a standard deviation of 5, so I'll enter those in. And then I said I'm going to do the probability that x is less than 17. Let me go ahead and scroll that up so we can see that a little bit better. Maybe you have to hit enter a few times to get that to the top. Okay, so I've got my 20 and my 5 in, and then I want the probability that x is less than 17. One of the things I might recommend that you would do if you're having a hard time figuring out whether that 17 is the lower or upper boundary would be to draw a picture of the normal curve and shade the boundary or draw in the boundary and shade the region they're asking for, and then think about is that 17 on the right or the left. And if you do that, you'll find out that it is on the right. And then if I'm going to the left of that and there's no stopping point listed, then the stopping point would be negative infinity. Always use the negative infinity button instead of trying to type something in there. And then when you click calculate, it will draw the curve, so you can think about, does that match up, right? So 20 is here, 17 was our boundary, that's here, and doing the area to the left should be, or doing a less than should be to the left, so that would be over here. The other thing I want to point out is I did a less than, and I used the 17. If it had said less than or equal to, I would still do a 17, because when you're working with normal distributions, that's a continuous random variable, and for continuous random variables, you are not supposed to adjust your endpoints, whether they're included or not. You just use the number that's given. So now I want to capture this and put it into my report, but one of the parts says that on your report after you print it out you should circle the answer, and a lot of people forget to do that. So I'm going to show you a way to circle that answer right here and now so that you don't forget. And the way to do that would be, instead of using the alt print screen method of screen capture, I'm going to use snipping tool. So you usually have to go search for that on your computer in the lower left menu. That's off screen for you here, but I'm doing that now. And I got the snipping tool, and I'm going to do a new snip. The screen will go gray, and I can do a quick drag to get the window that I want. And normally we would just copy and paste that, but when that snip comes up, the pen is marked, and so you can use that pen to just do a click draw with your mouse and circle the answer. And we're trying to find the probability that x was less than 17, and so that probability would be an area, so I've circled the area. The z-score is a step in that, but it's not the answer. Only the area is the answer. I have noticed that when people do this, sometimes they then do alt print screen to capture this, but that gets the whole window, including all these tools and menus and all that extra stuff. So what you want to do is just edit copy, and that'll just get this part right here. And then you can click over to your report, and you can click where you want that graph to go and do a Control V to paste it in. In this case, that was kind of big, so it went to the next page. Let me see if I can shrink that down, if it'll show up on the other page. And I would say that's still not fitting, and I don't really want to go smaller. So I'm going to take this, and I'm just going to take all of number 2, and I'm going to send it down to a new page, and that way that graph is together with its label. And I'll make it a little smaller so I can fit a couple on the same page. Okay, you would go on and just keep working in order, but I'm going to skip forward to G, and I'm going to try and find the x value with an area of 0.23 to its right, which is a little different than what you're asked to do, but very similar. So if you watch what I do here, that should be really helpful with what you have to do on your part G. So first thing would be to bring that app back up, and if you're trying to, let me go ahead and scroll this up again. I think we can see it now. Oh, covered it up, sorry. So I'm just going to scroll that up a little bit. So if you're trying to find the x value with the area 0.23 to its right, the problem with this app for that, well, first of all, that's a working backwards question because you know area, so you have to click on inverse CDF. And then the problem with this sim for that is it wants the area to the left and you're given the area to the right, but that's a fairly easy fix. So we know that the total area under normal curve is 1. So if I know the area on the right and I do 1 minus that, that will give me the area on the left. So if the area to the right is 0.23, then the area to the left must be 0.77, and I can put that in. I do have to make sure I get the mean and standard deviation to match what the problem said. For me, that was 20 and 5. For you, it's different. Make sure you're looking at your directions and getting the correct mean and standard deviation in there. And then I click calculate, and I draw that. And I think this makes sense. 77% is the area on the left. That's the shaded area. This smaller white part would be 0.23. So I've answered that question. They asked for the x values, so this is the answer. And if you think about where that would go, that would be right here on the number line. And that does fit. If this is 20 and that's 35, I think yours was inches of rainfall. So like if this is 20 inches and that's 35 inches, then 23.695 inches should be between that and closer to the 20. So this mark right here does make sense. So let me just show you how I would mark that up. Go into the snipping tool, get a new snip going. So I'm going to capture this window, and then I'm going to do some marking. So the x value answer was right here, so it might be good to circle that. And I believe yours tells you to label the 0.23 on the right. Well, this 0.77 right here is that area. I'll draw a little arrow to that. So where's your 0.23? Okay, let me do the best I can with the 0.23 with the mouse, which will be kind of messy. Don't worry about that. At least it's getting marked now and you don't have to worry about forgetting it. So there's the 0.23, but where is it on the picture? It would be right there. So I'll go ahead and mark that on. And then the other thing, this comes up on the percentile question. They ask you to mark this kind of number on the graph. I don't want to try and write 23.695 with the mouse. I think that would go pretty badly. But what that is it's this number right here. It's this borderline spot between the shaded and the unshaded. And so that x I found is right there. And again, that does make sense because if it's 23.695, that should fit in between these two. And then I can go edit and copy and go to my report, go to where that belongs and do a Control V. Again, too big, so it went to a new page, but if I shrink that down a bit, I think it'll still be very readable. And I got a couple of them on the same page. I guess I have room to make that a little bigger. Please try and make sure that when you put a graph, if it's too big, you can shrink it down to bring it back, or if that would be too small, then make sure you press enter so that the label stays with the graph. Alright, so there's some help on how to find probabilities, how to do working backwards, how to use snipping tool to mark your answers, and hopefully that will help you out as you work through Tech 6. Alright, good luck.